Good evening, this is TVRI News with the latest reports from around the world. In the headlines tonight, Greek Prime Minister Kostas Simitis holds crucial talks with Cyprus President Glafkos Klerides over Nicosia's plan to install Russian missiles in Cyprus. Pope John Paul II, in a major papal bull, proclaims the year 2000 a special holy year.
And here at home, President B.J. Habibie receives the Australian Defence Minister John Moore. And finally, we take a look at the highlights of the Miss World competition this year being held in the Seychelles. Now the news in detail.
Greek Prime Minister Kostas Simitis has held crucial talks with Cyprus President Glafkos Klerides over Nicosia's plan to install Russian missiles in Cyprus. Turkey has threatened to use military force on the divided island if the weapons are deployed. Cyprus President Glafkos Klerides on Friday came under intense pressure to abandon his plan for deploying Russian S-300 air defense missiles to protect the Greek Cypriot half of the island. The plan, which has been postponed twice, was originally backed by Simitis in 1996, but he has since backed down, fearing it could stall accession talks aimed at securing Cyprus' membership of the European Union. At a news conference, Klerides said, "Obviously our intention is peace, but if Turkey moves to realize any of its threats, there is no doubt that we are ready to respond and defend ourselves." Diplomats and officials have said that Greece is trying to find a face-saving way to let Cyprus avoid deploying the Russian-made S-300. Among the ideas is to place the missiles on the Greek island of Crete, but Greece wants some initiative to aid Cyprus' security in exchange for such a move. Political analyst Thanos Veremis said the plan to put the missiles on Crete was good to keep the order.
The death of 4 Israeli soldiers within 48 hours in southern Lebanon has rekindled the debate on the war of attrition there and forced Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to cut short a European trip for consultations with his security advisors. The latest deaths of 2 soldiers came on Thursday in a double mine attack by the Hezbollah group, which is fighting to oust Israel from the occupation zone in southern Lebanon. The 2 soldiers died after a convoy of armored vehicles hit a mine planted by suspected Hezbollah guerrillas. 2 others suffered light wounds in a second blast detonated by a rescue unit. They were taken for treatment to a hospital in northern Israel. The army said the soldiers were on a routine mission when the bomb exploded in the central sector of the 15-kilometer deep zone. In Beirut, the pro-Iranian Hezbollah group claimed responsibility for the attack, which brought Israel's death toll in its southern Lebanon occupation zone to 5 over the last 10 days, and its casualty count for the year to 17. Public pressure has risen for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to pull out the troops. Before leaving London, Netanyahu promised a review of tactics in South Lebanon.
Pope John Paul II, in major papal bull proclaiming 2000 a special holy year, has said the Catholic Church must implore forgiveness for the historical injustices it had committed in the past. The papal bull was introduced at a news conference on Friday by Cardinal Roger Etchegaray and Monsignor Crescenzio Sepe and Piero Marini. Reconciliation was a principal theme of the document released on Friday, which decreed a timetable for the opening of the Holy Year on Christmas Eve 1999, with ceremonies in Rome and the Holy Land. The Pope hopes that steps forward will be made in the dialogue between Jewish, Christians and Muslims, said Cardinal Roger Etchegaray, referring to the fact that pilgrims could celebrate the Jubilee in one of the churches of Jerusalem. In the bull, Incarnationis Mysterium, the 78-year-old Pope also decreed that, as in past holy years, Catholics who make pilgrims or do good deeds during 2000 can obtain special indulgences for their sins. In 2000, Catholics can gain indulgences by making the pilgrimage to Rome, the Holy Land, or certain churches in their countries, or by doing good deeds such as visiting the ill, the imprisoned, or donating to charities.
United States President Bill Clinton on Friday gave the congressional committee considering his impeachment written answers to 81 questions about the Monica Lewinsky scandal and its cover-up, and he maintained that he never lied under oath or obstructed justice. Clinton's answer to the committee's questions adhered closely to his previous testimony. The documents include a letter from Clinton's attorney, David Kendall. Kendall reiterated his denial that Clinton had committed perjury, witness tampering, obstruction of justice, or abuse of power, key elements of impeachment charges expected to be drawn up against him. It was reported that Republicans on Friday afternoon were actually drawing up articles of impeachment against President Clinton. Democrats like Congressman Barney Franks said the Republicans were ignoring the American people. Polls have shown that most Americans oppose impeaching Clinton. Republican Bob Barr, who has been critical of Clinton throughout the Lewinsky scandal, called Clinton's written answers evasive.
Would you turn to tab 5, which is a press release which your office issued under your name on February 5.
And those were the headlines. Coming up, our local reports. Today in Jakarta, the Minister of Security and Defense, General Wiranto, met with the newly appointed Australian Minister of Security and Defense, John Moore.
Indonesian contestants gained runner-up position in the body painting Sodesco International Contest this year held in Greece.
The Australian Minister of Defense, John Moore, expressed his support for Indonesia's path towards democracy through an honest and fair election to be held next year. This was stated by John Moore while meeting with President B.J. Habibie at the Merdeka Palace earlier today. During the meeting, other issues to be discussed included human rights and the issue of East Timor. Moore further added that he understands the problems Indonesia is now facing. Moore was accompanied by his Indonesian counterpart, Wiranto, and the Australian ambassador to Indonesia, John McCarthy. In the meeting, President Habibie explained the changes Indonesia is currently experiencing. When asked about security for the tourists traveling in Indonesia, Moore said that this was not a problem.
I'm his fan.
After visiting Indonesia, do you think that Indonesia is still safe for the tourists to come to Indonesia?
No, quite so. There's absolutely no reason why Australian tourists shouldn't come to Indonesia. In fact, on Thursday, the day before I came here, a very prominent Australian rang me and said he'd seen that I was coming to Indonesia and he had booked to go to Bali for Christmas. And was it okay? And I said, well, sure, why not? If I can come, why not you? So he's going and he'll spend a lot of money.
The Australia-Indonesia Defence Committee in Indonesia.
The Minister of Security and Defense, General Wiranto, met with the Australian Minister of Security, John Moore, here today in Jakarta. The Australian Minister of Security and Defense, John Moore, is here to introduce himself and his ministerial duties. Minister Moore's three-day visit to Indonesia began with the ministerial defense meeting in Surabaya yesterday to discuss bilateral ties. During the meeting, Minister Moore expressed his appreciation of the strength on the ongoing relationships between both countries, especially in the security and defense sector. Speaking of the crisis that hit Indonesia, Minister Moore said that he is very concerned by the situation and hoped that the country's crisis will soon come to an end. During the 30-minute meeting, Minister Wiranto was assisted by Secretariat General of the Department of Security and Defense, Lieutenant General Suyono, Territorial Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and the Minister's Secretariat Officer, Brigadier General Bambang Sutejo.
Church and Christian community leaders from eastern Indonesia condemn groups who are using religion as means to reach their own political objectives. The Sibolangit Declaration announced this afternoon in Jakarta by church and Christian community leaders from the eastern part of Indonesia demands that the government and security officials thoroughly investigate and bring before the law those responsible for inciting recent riots, and that the results of the investigation be openly announced to the public. The declaration, which was signed by over 30 church and community leaders, further urged the government to provide assurance of security to all, as this is the right of all citizens and the responsibility of the government. The declaration was signed at the Indonesian Churches Union meeting held in Sibolangit, North Sumatra, and will be conveyed to President Habibie.
The Minister of Social Affairs, Mrs. Yustika Baharsha, yesterday met with the United Nations representative on violations against women, Mrs. Radhika Kumarawaswamy. The United Nations representative, Mrs. Radhika Kumaraswamy's visit to Indonesia is to gather accurate information on human rights violation practices in Indonesia, specifically concerning violence towards women. At the meeting, Minister Yustika Baharsha explained various matters concerning the government's national programs in order to protect women from any form of violence. She added that the protection program will be implemented throughout Indonesia, especially in Aceh, East Timor, and Irian Jaya. With the information given, Minister Baharsha said that she hoped that the United Nations reporter for violations practices towards women will objectively inform the United Nations Human Rights Commission on the issues of violence against women in Indonesia.
Indonesia was first runner-up in the Sedesco International Body Painting Competition held this year in Athens, Greece. Pinkan Tilar, who represented Indonesia, won the first runner-up in the competition with her work called The Tattoo of the Dayak Princess. The competition drew participants from 11 groups carrying the theme mythology of your country. The body painting makeup, which was inspired by the uniqueness and the variety of Indonesia's nature, was praised by the people of Athens, and the success of Pinkan Tilar in the competition has increased Indonesia's reputation in the world of makeup. Pinkan Tilar said that she was very interested in promoting Kalimantan to the international forum exhibiting its color and unique patterns. She further said that Bali always attracts the tourist attention. However, the number of regions in Indonesia to possess beautiful cultures and arts are numerous. The body painting competition was part of an event held in conjunction with the Conference for Aesthetic Experts in Greece, which was attended by participants from 30 countries.
Biasa gitu, makanya saya memberikan yang ya sekiranya belum mereka tahu. Yang di sini juga bulu-bulu dari burung merah, lalu
Pakistan has long been known as a country of exotic locales infused with an Eastern tradition, which adds to its uniqueness and magic. In tonight's feature, we will go there for a deeper insight into the country.
We'll be back with more reports right after this.
No.
In places surrounding these sites, farmers still husk their own grain and use the same styled wooden cart pulled by bullocks as their ancestors of centuries ago. On the Arabian Sea at Mambour was the prosperous port with vast trading links with the Arab world of 6th and 7th centuries. In 711 AD, an Arab general, Muhammad bin Qasim, captured this fort at Bibel and made, which is certainly the earliest mosque of the subcontinent here, bearing an inscription of 727 AD. Muslim conversion and grandeur of Sindh in later centuries can be assessed by the Makali Hill necropolis. Stretching over 15 kilometers are hundreds of tombs of Muslim nobility and merchants, built in the Islamic influence of arches and domes and adorned with Quranic inscriptions. Sindh continued to support the Islamic kingdom and faith in later centuries. Humayun, the Mughal king from Delhi, was sheltered here during his exile, and his son Akbar was born in Umarkot. The hospitality of Sindh was not forgotten by the Mughal kings, and in the city of Thatta, Shah Jahan had a superb mosque built. It is a splendid example of Muslim architecture, an assimilation of the arch and dome method with local glazed tilework and bricks. Barely 70 kilometers away lies Karachi. It enjoys a natural harbor strategically used as an ancient sea trading route. Karachi is Pakistan's largest, richest, and most energetic city and commercial center. About 1/4 of the country's industry is located here and has a population of over 6 million. It is a city of contrasts, markets, and many moods and cultures. Life here never stops, night and day. Karachi begins the national highway, the main stem of communication through Pakistan. Day and night, traffic and loaded trucks ply on it. All along are small cafe and siesta spots for the drivers to rest and recreate a few moments or hours and snatch sleep before beginning their long drives. These drivers are the kings of the roads, working long and dangerous hours, sometimes in 8-hour shifts, with an accompanying mechanic. Most of their time is spent in transporting goods by trucks elaborately painted with imaginary landscapes and mythical beasts. The towns of Sindh had enjoyed commerce and trade for centuries, but shifting trades and patterns of 20th century have made them only a remnant of their splendorous past. Hyderabad, a relatively new town, is still surrounded by villages where superb craftsmanship prevails. Block cutters chisel centuries-old delicate patterns for printing cloth. Unique methods of dyeing cloth with local herbs, organic vegetable dyes like indigo and walnut tree roots are used. The dyeing procedure itself is unique and requires cloth to be printed, dyed, and washed 10 times over. The finished product, called ajrak, is worn by great pride by a Sindhi and almost his identity.
And that that concludes this evening's feature. Next, in our closing segment, we have the opening of the richest ever skins tournament in the PGA Tour history at Rancho La Quinta, California.
And a 19-year-old Israeli wins the 1998 Miss World contest in the Seychelles.
4 of the world's premier golfers are preparing for the richest ever skins tournament in PGA's Tour history. Fred Couples, Greg Norman, defending champion Tom Lehman, and Mark O'Meara will share $1 million in the skins game beginning today at Rancho La Quinta Country Club, California. The tournament will be Lehman's last of the year. The former British Open champion will undergo shoulder surgery before Christmas. Norman, on the other hand, will be making his second appearance following a 7-month hiatus from golf due to his shoulder operation.
I'm very proud to be invited, just because it does mean that you've done something that's worthwhile in golf.
A new breed of snowboarder took to the slopes on Thanksgiving Day. A 12-pound turkey named Christmas was sighted carving up the ice of Mount Bachelor in Oregon. The winged boarder gobbled up the challenge in his debut effort, swooshing through the 80 inches of snow which has fallen in the region over the past 2 weeks. No doubt trying to escape the fate of his brethren fowl, one turkey put his talents on display for Thanksgiving Day. Skiers at Oregon's Mount Bachelor got a treat on Thursday when they shared the trails with the world's only known snowboarding turkey. The pilgrims caught up with the winter adventure at the mountain base, no doubt to invite the bird to dinner.
A 19-year-old Israeli has become Miss World 1998 in a competition that for the first time judged the beauties on the brains and the beauty. Under the moonlit sky of the Seychelles, the tension is mounting. The new improved Miss World contest is about to reach its climax, and as the beauties arrive to get changed, they are very nervous. In a 90-minute extravaganza hosted by Boyzone star Ronan Keating, the contestants dance in streetwear and model elegant evening dresses. The garish swimwear parade of yesteryear is gone, and a more trendy edge introduced in an effort to bring the 47-year-old contest up to date and restore its lost glitter. But as the night progresses, the beauties are more concerned about the outcome than the image. The second place run to Miss France and the third to Miss Malaysia.
Shana Gambo, the United States of America's finest girl. The girl who's still smiling though.
And that's the news for tonight. Tune in again tomorrow for more news and information on TVRI. I'm Fifi Aleida Yahya.
And I'm Achmad Setianto. Thanks again for joining us, and good night.